at myself today to see if I still feel.
Sometimes everything is wrong.
Songs they sing, sad songs they sing, sad songs they sing. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Everybody hurts.
Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview show as we look to preview the super exciting, potentially probably dead rubber between Sunderland and Bristol City at the Stadium Light this Saturday. First and foremost, I just want to thank everyone for actually tuning in because we literally lost 5-1 on Monday, and quite frankly, I'm not sure either of the sides this weekend can get relegated, nor do I think we can make the playoffs. So quite frankly, I'm not really sure what there is to preview, but we're here all the same because that's what we do. And to join me is technically a debutant in Patch from Three Peeps in a Podcast, but it's not really your first time. We had a recording nightmare, but uplift the podcast for us, Patch. How are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm not bad at all. After a bit of a downer over the last sort of month, we are coming out of that, and yeah, we've got 6 points over Easter, so we're feeling quite buoyant at the moment. So apologies to rub it in, but you didn't have a great weekend, did you?
We had a Good Friday on Good Friday, but Monday was it wasn't the resurrection of any sort of form that we would have hoped. But as you said, you're on a much better run of form. We've actually run 3 of the last 4 games, but we'll concentrate on the most recent win, which was a 1-0 win over, I think, 10-man Plymouth on Monday. How was the performance? How was the game?
Yeah, no, it was Plymouth really came at us in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, as you'd expect. They are obviously down fighting for their championship survival down at the bottom. And we soaked up the pressure. I think they had 1, maybe 2 good opportunities, but we rode it out. Our game plan was pretty clear. We started out in a sort of 3-4-2-1 formation, and then after about 20-25 minutes, changed to our more familiar 4-2-3-1. And we started to come back into the game, and obviously got that goal from Naki Wells, which was sort of bundled over the line. And we were pretty comfortable from there on in. As you said, they got a player sent off towards the end of the match, but it was pretty comfortable, to be fair.
I think the result, when you look at it, comes off the back of, as I said before, a really good run of form. 3 in your last 4. You've beaten Leicester City, always a good win. I know they're not on the greatest run of form, but I mean, the Premier League side and all but name at the moment. Swansea City, also a good team, and then Plymouth as well. You've only really lost against West Brom, which, of course, I think it's a difficult place to go in the best of times. So what is it that's changed in the last few games?
Yeah, if you go back even further, that game at Ipswich, I don't know if you saw that one on Sky, but we were 2-1 up with minutes to go on that one and lost 3-2. So it's really the last 5 games, with the exception of West Brom, where we've shown that step change and improvement. And there's been a number of factors you can probably play into that. Liam Manning obviously is still relatively new and trying to get his ideas across. And I think after that series of defeats that we encountered at Sheffield Wednesday, Cardiff, and Ipswich, it was kind of right. We've tried to impart this new system, but let's go back to basics. Let's get it right in this formation before we start to try anything different. So that's kind of what happened. Alongside that, you had the return of George Tanner, who's been solid for us at the back. Matty James has come back into the team, and there was just a few sort of more rigid in terms of personnel and strategy that we've put forward. So that's kind of some of the reasons. The other reasons, I think, it was just that happens in Championship football, doesn't it? You go on these little runs. We've not been battered at all season. We've only lost by 1 goal in the main, if not 2. So our goal difference is I think which is -1 at the moment, but still we've been in every game. So these decisions can go either way, or there can be a chance that you miss. But we've been pretty much in most games all season. So you go on these runs, and obviously a new manager and fans start to get on the manager's back. But any manager needs time to just embed his ideas and get things going. And it's clicked for us, certainly over the last 2-3 games.
When you look at that run as well, the run of wins that you've had, I mean, if you take out the Ipswich game even, and maybe the West Brom game, you haven't conceded that many in recent weeks. You've kept a fair amount of clean sheets, especially in the past 4 games, because 3 of those games that you've won, you haven't conceded. Has there been any change at the back, or is it just a case of you've defended better, or personnel came back into the squad, like you mentioned Tanner before?
Yeah, it's been pretty standard. Our back 2 of Viner and Dickey has been pretty much the same for the majority of the season, and they are solid. And Rob can come forward, Zach can come forward. They're both good on the ball. Max O'Leary's been really good all season as well. And then there's been a bit of the experiment on the left with Pring and Roberts changing, and McCrory and Tanner on the right. But yeah, if we start how we started against Plymouth, we start with 3 at the back, and that's Roberts on the left of the 3, Dickey in the middle, and Viner on the right of the 3, with Pring sort of left of a 4, and he can interchange with Roberts quite nicely as well. And the same with Tanner as well. So Tanner's come back in, and as I say, he's been a really good defender for us all season. So yeah, it's looking a bit more settled. When you can put out the same team twice in a row in 4 days, I mean, that's great because there's not been any injuries, and also it provides that sort of familiarization and stability as well.
Funny when you look at the Bristol City's form as a whole, because I noticed the recent games, obviously the run of form where you've won quite a few. Then I looked behind that and I thought, well, you've lost quite a few there. Then there were some games where you'd lost more, then you'd won loads. It seems to have gone in sort of batches or patches, if you prefer, no pun intended, this season where, Bristol City, you've beaten Coventry, you've got close to Leeds, you've obviously went close against Ipswich, you've picked up big wins against Middlesbrough and stuff like that. It seems to be slightly inconsistent, which is a bit ironic from a Sunderland fan, well, I suppose, although we've been quite consistent recently. But is there any reason Bristol City are inconsistent this season? Because it's probably not a surprise that you sit in 12th, which is smack bang in the middle, because of the results that you've had.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. This season and in the past, to be fair, before Liam Manning, we often seem to do better against teams above us. And you can factor into that as well the games in the FA Cup against Nottingham Forest and West Ham. We went toe to toe with both of those, beat West Ham overall, and took Nottingham Forest to penalties. So we don't seem to have any problem against those teams higher in the league. Obviously, case in point, Leicester as well, most recently. So it's going to be an interesting one on Saturday. We're both smack bang in the middle of the table, as you said. Neither of us are going down, and neither of us are getting into the playoffs. I think we can pretty much say. But in our team, you've got 3 players playing for contracts. You've got youngsters wanting to prove a point and stake a claim in the team as well. You've got a bench that are all eager to get on. It's very much a squad game for us. We've got starters and you've got your finishers. So it's all to play for. It should be all to play for in terms of that. And we want to finish strong. We want to go into the close season buoyant. I don't know how you feel about that in terms of the Sunderland side.
I'm so despondent. It's unbelievable. I don't know how I've got myself up to do the podcast, but here we are. I'm kind of born with it. So there's not much I can do. And it's funny you mentioned about sort of Liam Manning before, and there's plenty to dig into with that, because we obviously remember him from his time at MK Dons, which was actually really successful at the start and then really not towards the end. And then he's had a good spell at Oxford and then got the job with Bristol City and jumped up a level. But I think, the win that you had against Plymouth saw off Ian Foster, and it's weird. There was like an influx of these new, cool, hip coaches. Michael Beale, I don't know if I'm going to include him in that, but I might as well for the context of the question. Sort of came into the Championship at sort of the turn of the year, give or take, just before, just afterwards. Beale's gone, Foster's gone, Manning's still there. So if we're talking young, cool, hip managers, Manning is the one that's keeping his job out of those three I've mentioned. He did have a shaky start. He has been a bit patchy, as I mentioned before. But things take time. How are the fans viewing Manning's sort of early era so far? And has he managed to make much of a change to the way you play, the way that you set up and things like that?
I used a word on the podcast for the Plymouth game of iterative, and I had to explain it to one of the people on the podcast, and that's very much what he's been. It's an iterative process. He's put one idea in place, one formation in place, and then building on it. If it works, we take a step back, we go back to basics and make sure everyone's on board with the ideas and how they're going to play. He has brought a new way of playing, and it is possession football. There's trigger points that they all need to understand of when to press and when not to press, formations in play and formations out of play. So a lot to take on for a squad that was maybe managed slightly different under Nigel Pearson, more man management maybe, and less executing a game plan, if you like. But it's been two steps forward, one step back, two steps forward. It's been a very much inconsistent season, as you say, but fans, like in all football, they want immediate gratification, immediate success. And Bristol City in the past, if we look back at our managers over the last 10 years, Liam Manning's been in the role since November, so he's had effectively 5 months. Nigel Pearson was in charge from February 2021 up until November 2023, so he had a good sort of 2.5 years. Before that, it was Dean Holden's not a great example because he didn't get long at all. Lee Johnson had the best part of four years. So we don't switch and change managers a lot, as much as there's social media outcries of, get him out when we lose 2-3 on the trot. Social media isn't representative of a fan base. And people have to remember that there's a lot more fans than those that say things on social media. So he's got time. He will have time to get some players in of his own. He's got a couple in already. Obviously, you mentioned MK Dons. Scott Twine was with him at MK Dons. He's now with us at Bristol City. Remains to be seen whether he'll be with us in the next season. Obviously, he's on loan from Burnley. But yeah, get some of his own players in that play his way. He plays with this one up top, which is taking some getting used to for Tommy Conway and for Nahki Wells. They were much better up front as a two. And if you look at last season, when they played up front as a two, more often than not, one of them scored. So Tommy Conway hasn't got the number of goals that he would want this season, but just because he's playing in a different system, in my opinion. So yeah, lots to take on board there in terms of how it's going under Liam Manning, but he will have time and he's been given, freedom to express himself. So we wish him all the very best, obviously.
When I look at the appointment of Manning, I'm not going to say he couldn't be more different than Nigel Pearson, but there's a contrast because, this might shock people, but I quite liked Nigel Pearson. I thought he was funny in a kind of really blunt way. I kind of found him some of the things he said.
Not speaking for every City fan, but we liked him. We want him to succeed. We could see how different he was. We could see what he was like. But yeah, Liam Manning is a different coach.
Has it took time to get used to that adjustment from, everyone remembers the ostrich comment. I don't think Liam Manning's ever going to make a comment like that. He just doesn't seem that kind of bloke.
No, not at all. No, he won't. He's very measured in his post-match, pre-match press conferences, interviews. If we win, he doesn't get carried away. If we lose, he doesn't get carried away. He doesn't throw players under the bus. He's very measured. And he talks a lot about being brave. And Saturday he was really brave. At 0-0, he made a triple substitution, changed the formation, changed the personnel, and it worked, paid dividends. So that's taking a risk. If that didn't work, then people will be giving him pelters. So yeah, two very different people, I think, rather than two different managers and coaches. They're two very different people.
Yeah, 100%. And I know I touched on it before that none of us are going to get in the playoffs. And look, I'm not going to put my house on that because I won't put my house on anything, but I'd be really surprised if any of us did. But you're 11 points off the playoffs, so you're 2 points ahead of us. And then I looked at the fixtures because I thought, let's see what their run is. Huddersfield, Rotherham, Stoke, and Blackburn. And look, Blackburn aren't great, despite what Monday said. That was more our fault than Blackburn's good run of form. Is
Yeah.
there still some lingering hopes? Maybe the most sort of optimistic Bristol City fan you could meet, but that you could sneak in because you're playing a lot of the struggling teams?
I'm probably one of those most optimistic Bristol City fans, and I'm not holding out any hope. I don't think maybe 1% hope, but yeah, very unlikely. I mean, it obviously there's a lot of teams above us that can pick up points as well. So if no one else was playing and all we had to do was pick up 11 points from our last 6 games, so 11 out of 18, then there's an outside chance, but other teams pick up points and will ruin that. So we want to beat our tally of 59 points from last season. We're on 53 now. So two wins and a draw from the next 6 games is an improvement, if you like. But I'm confident we can pick up, as you say, out of that, maybe 3 wins. So yeah.
It's interesting when you get this part of the season, though, isn't it? Because I suppose there is nothing really to play for, but you still go at the game, you still hope to win and stuff like that. I suppose when you've got those fixtures and you're on a good run of form, if you put together a run of form which doesn't get you in the playoffs and is unlikely to, but you still win 3 or 4 of those games,
Yeah,
that goes
strong.
really well for a positive summer, doesn't it?
Yeah, finish strong. The fans go away happy. The season ticket sales go up. People have a renewed optimism, if you like, for next season. We've already bought 2 players that we had to loan back to their parent clubs, so we know 2 of the players that are going to be coming in for us next season, and they're in positions that we need a bit more depth as well. So yeah, it's finishing strong just builds that level of optimism and carries people through the summer. So I think it's really important. I don't buy into this. There's nothing to play for because they're playing for their positions. Some of them are playing for contracts, are out of contract in the summer. If the last few games when we weren't playing so well, there was comments of they're already on the beach. There's nothing to play for, but then we almost were sort of looking over our shoulder, thinking, "Hang on a minute, we could get dragged into this." But yeah, we've picked up those points now, so we are in mid-table, but we can finish strong. Our prediction between myself and Matt, my co-host, at the start of the season was 10th, so I think we could still realistically achieve that. I think that would be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ours was second, and ours has gone right down the drain. So, but we are fools after all. You mentioned Tommy Conway before. Now, me living up in Scotland, this is a player I've heard of and a player I know a lot about. Oh well, not a lot about, but I know a lot of talk about him, shall we say. He's performing for Scotland under-21s. He got the winner for yourselves against us, yes, from the penalty spot. Maybe not scored as many as you'd have hoped, but he's definitely got a bit of excitement around him. Wants to play internationally. Got what feels like half a chance of getting in the Scotland squad. Maybe not for the Euros, but in the future. Why is it Bristol City fans are excited about him? What is it that you feel he brings to the team and can bring in the future?
Tommy Conway is a natural finisher. I compared him to Alan Shearer at Southampton. In
I'll bleep
like
that out,
2020.
everyone. Don't worry.
2020. Sorry, Newcastle. Yeah, of course. But he is a natural finisher. I don't know if you saw his goal at West Ham in the FA Cup, but he just gets a sniff, and more often than not, he's going to hit the target. But he's just, if you look at his last season, 2022-23, he scored 9 goals in 34 games. And I think Naki Wells probably got, actually, no, he got more than that. So that's just league. So last season he scored 12 goals. That included some goals in the cup as well. He's got 9 goals this season, but he has had a few injuries. But as I said earlier on, he is adjusting to this one up top style, which a number of teams seem to be playing. It seems to be the way they're going now. And he will have to develop to become more used to that. And he, as you can see, he's still scoring goals. He's still a threat. He's I would describe him as a natural finisher. Commitment levels through the roof. He's going to wear his heart on his sleeve. He's going to put everything he can into every game. And he's one of our own. He's been with the club since he was 8 years old. So he's literally come up through the ranks and got his chance in during COVID, and took it with both hands, and is part of the team. Whether he's with us next season or not is still a question mark because his contract's up summer of 2025. So if he's not going to sign a new contract, then they might want to cash in. I sincerely hope that that isn't the case and that he does sign an improved offer or something to that extent. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens with Tommy Conway. But all he needs is a chance, and he hits the target 9 times out of 10. So it's exactly what you want from a striker.
I think Alex Scott's probably the one that people think of straight away. But when you look through Bristol City over the past few years and the squad at the moment, you have like either producing good quality young players or bringing good young quality players in from, with all due respect, lesser sides, lower division sides, and kind of giving them championship experience and then moving them on. Conway's the one that sticks out for me. Alex Scott was the one last year. I think Bell was also one last year as well. But who should we be looking at for this coming weekend? Because I'm sure there'll be players in there that we're not 100% sort of aware of.
Jason Knight was our man of the match on Monday, and because of Twine coming in and picking up an injury in his first game, he played one game, scored one goal, and we thought we might never see him again. But if you look at that 4-2-3-1, Twine's in the 10 in the middle of the 3, but Jason Knight up until that point had been that person. And he is good at pressing. He does pick up a few goals, does pick up a few assists, but his best position is in that 2, if you like, with a Matty James or a Joe Williams or a Taylor Gardner-Hickman. And he's been playing in that role the last few games, and he's driving forward with the ball. He's finding passes. So, and he's played for Derby for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and he played in the Championship before with Derby as well. So he's probably one you might not have heard as much about, but one to definitely look out for. You know, Scott Twine is capable of changing a game. He came on at West Brom when we were a couple of goals down, and you could just tell that he had that different level of awareness and skill and ability. Cam Pring is another one of the products of the youth system, but obviously he's a little bit older now. So Cam is predominantly a left back, but also a left wing back. He's 26 now, but he's another player who can cause a lot of problems. They're all capable. As I said, Viner and Dickey have performed really well for us this season. Mehmeti has started to find his feet a little bit more and is causing problems, cutting in, tricky feet, takes a shot, causes a lot of issues for goalkeepers. And yeah, I think I've mentioned pretty much most of the team there. But yeah, Sam Bell was a big loss for us when he got injured early in the season as well.
I remember Mehmeti, actually. He came from Wickham.
That's right.
Famously, I believe, elbowed or punched Luke Nine in the face randomly, got a 3-game ban. But yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Don't know about that.
No, he didn't seem the type, because obviously he got the winner against Leicester, didn't he? And that was a long range drive from sort of cutting in. Yeah, you know what, tidy player. In terms of Sunderland, I used to like asking this question for 18 months. Now I hate asking it, but here we are. 1 win in 9. That's 7 of them have been defeats. 1 has been a draw. 1 has been a random 2-0 win against Cardiff City. I've had some really interesting answers to this, and I don't know if you can even answer it, because I know not everyone will know as much about Sunderland as maybe me and the listeners would. But from the outside looking in, what are Sunderland at the minute to, you know, an outsider?
Well, I was trying to remember that game in December where we beat you 1-0 at Ashton Gate. I think Tommy Conway scored that day, a penalty. And I think it was Patrick Roberts that sort of stood out for me that day. So he was someone who, you know, would be what I think one to watch, and more and more interested in Joe Bellingham as well, and obviously he has got massive shoes to fill in his brother. Question for you is, there obviously is similarities. He's more of a striker than Jude by the looks of it, but has he got that aspiration to get to, you know, not maybe the heights of Jude, but somewhere near?
I'm a big fan. I don't think everyone is, but I think the bulk of Sunderland fans probably are, if I can say that. I think he needs to find out what his position is. I think the club do as well, and he definitely needs to not be played for 90 minutes every single week because he's only just turned 18. But I'd be denying it if I said I wasn't very excited by him. I think he'll make a very handy Premier League player at the very least.
Okay.
The problem being, and you can probably tell from the results from the outside looking in, that Sunderland don't have a great deal of experience, and when how do I put it, shit hits the fan. Well, the shit tends to stick there because no one experienced enough to understand how to clean the shite off, which is a very great analogy to make. But
Very nice.
I mean, when you're looking at the management change, you would have seen us just as we were in the interim between Beale and Mowbray when we had Dodds in charge for a bit, which at the time, to be fair, was his first defeat of his second spell in charge. He's only had one since he took over from Michael Beale in his third spell. When you're looking at as a Bristol City fan in the form that you're on, and you're probably hearing how I'm speaking about the club at the moment, which is very hard to be anything but a little bit disillusioned with it. How are Bristol City fans viewing the game as well against us? Is it a game where, previously you would have maybe taken a draw, but now you think, pick them when they're down if you want?
So yeah, obviously fans will look at your last game, and I watched the highlights and saw how easy some of those goals were to score. Obviously former player of ours, Sammy Smodics, who's having a cracking season, caused a lot of problems, and we are, as you say, in good form. So yeah, I think we're coming up to Sunderland for the 3 points. But Sunderland's not an easy place to come. What was the attendance on Monday?
At the start, 42,000. At the end, 10.
Yeah, right. So Sunderland football is massive in Sunderland. I've become good friends with Gary Hours. He often always says Sunderland, the football. We have an hour show on our local radio station. I think there's like 2 or 3 nights dedicated to Sunderland football up in the northeast. So we know how massive football is. You guys won't take much of a 5-1 defeat. So I know you guys are going to be on and trying to support Sunderland and get them through and get a result. But yeah, I think we're coming up fairly confident.
You should trust me on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly confident in our defence against Premier League strikers, let alone the best strikers in the Championship. So yeah, we won't be too concerned. Famous last words. Cue a hat trick from Clark.
Which brings me on to the famous last question, which I think I forgot to do. I said I was going to go positive ahead of the Cardiff game, then predicted a 1-1 draw, and then we actually won for the first time in a long time. So there's got to be a response from Monday. Is it going to be enough of a response to beat a Bristol City side who are in form? Probably not, because confidence is a big thing, and if you score first, then the confidence can be knocked again, despite how much the players might want to respond to it. But I think I'll take a draw. I think I'll go with a 1-1. I don't think it's going to be a massively entertaining game, but it wouldn't surprise me if we got done by 2. But I'll say 1-1 to be slightly positive.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with our favourite scoreline of 1-0. What I think will happen is we will get to half time, keeping it at 0-0, and then make a slight tweak, pick up a goal. And that seems to be a good pattern over 3 of the last 4 games. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with 1-0 Bristol City. And hopefully, yeah, we get the 3 points and get up into 10th position at some point in the next 6 games. And our prediction will come true.
Hopefully, Sunderland don't lose 5-1. It can only get better from there,
well,
can't it?
we've only really steamrolled a couple of teams this season. Watford, we beat 4-1 on Boxing 4-1 on Boxing Day. And yeah, Plymouth we turned over as well earlier in the season, and even Southampton beat them 3-1. So well, not really a turnover, but yeah, we are capable of scoring goals. But yeah, I think it'll be, as you say, a bit tighter this Saturday. Question for you.
Yes.
19 players have played for Sunderland and Bristol City. How many can you name?
Martin Scott.
Yep.
Gary Hours. In recent memory.
Fairly recent memory, but some a little bit earlier. I'm 43. I don't know how old you are, but
38 coming up.
There we are. Do you want me to put you out of your misery?
Yeah. I'm going to get
Andy
annoyed by it,
Cole.
though. Oh, God, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Mick Harford.
Oh, Mick. Yeah, Mick Harford.
Stern John.
Did he play for Bristol City, Stern?
Yeah, came on loan, I think, at one point. Adam Matthews.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Lewin Nyatanga, defender.
Yeah, centre half.
Tom Ritchie in the 80s, early 80s.
Slightly
He's
before
a
my
bit
time.
City legend. Danny Rose.
On loan to Bristol City?
Antoine Semenyo.
Oh, yeah, of course. Come on. We took him on loan, and yes, of course. And now he looked like he couldn't hit a bond over the banjo at us. And then he's now worth about 18 million quid playing for Bournemouth. So here we are.
Can score with both feet. And
Yeah.
what a player. What a player. Danny Simpson.
Yes. Won the league with us.
Yeah. John Stead.
Oh, yeah. You took John Stead after us. You've had a barrage of really bad Sunderland centre forwards.
Bailey Wright.
Oh, how did I forget Bailey?
Yeah. I'm sure he was a fan's favourite at Sunderland.
Yeah, loved him.
And then I don't think you would have heard of the other ones, to be honest. But yeah, quite a few.
I only got Martin Scott and Gary Howes because they were involved in the swap deal. 95, which is poor for me. I see myself as a Sunderland Wikipedia, but I really need to go back to Sunderland school. But maybe I need to go back to school in general. But Patch, as always, thanks for joining me for the second time. The first time was great as well, but no one heard it. The first time
will never get aired, unfortunately.
Not because there was anything bad in it. I just messed up the recording. But pleasure to have you on again, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.